Hey, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to another video. Now today, we're gonna be working on my 1997 Honda Civic hatchback. And if you guys haven't seen the previous videos on this car, I'd really recommend checking them out, and I'll make sure to leave a link above. Now for those that are new to the channel, this is my 97 Civic that I actually bought from an auction that was considered a biohazard when I bought it. And it was because the inside was so disgusting, and I actually bought it with no key, so I had no idea if the engine and transmission was any good. Fast forward a little over a year now, and I'm at the point where I'm actually gonna be doing an engine swap in the car. When I first started this out, I just wanted to do a restoration, and I wanted it to be what they call OEM plus. So I just wanted to kind of refresh the car, and I had my fun with it. I took it to a bunch of autocross events, and I really got a lot of seat time, and I got familiar with the chassis, and I've just really grown to love the car. So I decided, instead of me parting ways with it, that I still wanted to invest in the Biohazard Civic by putting a upgraded engine in it. When I first started, I thought that I wanted to do a D-Series turbo, but once I did the cost analysis of all that stuff, I realized that it actually makes more sense to go to a K-Series. So there's a lot of things that I've been learning on this journey so far, and I think in terms of the short form content, I'm on like part 16 or 17 of that stuff. But now, since I'm diving into the long form videos, I want to be able to provide you guys with more insights. So what we're going to be talking about today is all the modifications that I'm going to be doing for this K-Series build. So this can be so many different things in between, but I think this is going to be a good opportunity for us to go into a deep dive about that stuff. And in the previous video that we did on this, I also talked about everything you need to do a K-swap, but this will be a little bit different because we will be doing more of just focusing on the modifications themselves. So this will just be performance related mods, but if you're looking for more information, I'd really recommend checking out the previous video that I did going through everything you would need to do a K-swap. So I think with that being said, we can dive right into this one, because as you can see behind me, there's a whole tons of parts that we need to look at. Before we start looking at the workbench, I did want to take a moment to talk you guys through the engine and transmission itself. So for the engine, I have a JDM K24A that I got from JDM Seattle. Now, this is a pretty popular swap if you want to go through and make the conversions to make this work. It's a more cost-effective way to get a K24 instead of you having to get something like a TSX, for example, which can cost a little bit more, but is more applicable to the USDM chassis, because there are going to be some differences, like the water pump housing, for example, on the JDM engines is a little bit different, so you'll need to swap that out if you ever want to run different accessories. But what I'm actually going to be doing is running the JDM accessories for now, since I don't see anything inherently wrong with them. But down the road, that is something to also consider. Now, I actually just put this on just a few minutes ago, and maybe I'll start here when it comes to the cooling system stuff. And I'm actually going to be running this hybrid racing thermostat that is actually going to help with the K-swap a lot, because you can adjust this, and you can adjust the angle at which this holds the thermostat in the right position. So in this case, if you needed to move this down, it's very easy. You just take these 5mm hex, and you can adjust this up or down. And as for the rest of the cooling system, I'm also going to be running a K-swap radiator and a cooling fan, which is going to do wonders to keep this nice and cool. Again, this is going to be a naturally aspirated build. So my target is probably going to be anywhere from 240 to 260 horsepower. I mean, that can be very optimistic, but I'm hoping to shoot for those numbers with the modifications that I'm going to be running. So one of the biggest things that I did for the JDM K24A is I actually swapped out the intake manifold, and I upgraded it to a RBC intake manifold. What's nice about this is a Honda OEM part. Yes, you can find larger intake manifolds. Really, all this is doing is just creating more flow, because especially with the K-Series engines, they are very reactive to air. So one of the best things you can do, especially if you want to keep this naturally aspirated, is you want to target to get as much air and fuel into the engine as possible. So to complement this, I'm actually also going to be running this 72mm throttle body, which is going to do wonders for us in terms of what we are looking for. So you have the right RBC manifold, you have the right throttle body, so that we can maximize for air coming in. To complement everything along with the air is we're going to be going next into the fuel. So for the fuel system, we're actually going to be running this hybrid racing fuel system, which includes the hybrid racing fuel rail, as well as the lines and the fuel pressure regulator that will get installed once we get to that point. And then I'm also running the Acura RDX 410cc injectors. This is a very popular upgrade because it's a plug-and-play solution that works. And again, it's just Honda OEM stuff. And for me, reliability is going to be the name of the game. So that's something that I really try and prioritize when I'm building stuff out like this. So we got it to a pretty good place right now. I'm running these extended studs in the back because you can see that I actually have the clutch and flywheel already installed. Usually when you have an engine on the engine stand, you will have a lot more room here and you don't worry about that. But since I did this earlier in the process, because I wanted to show you guys what that looked like, we already have it installed. So unfortunately, it might be a little bit difficult to see, but I do have other videos on this that you can go check out. So I'm actually gonna be running the Action Clutch chromoly flywheel. So this is a 10-pound flywheel. It's a little bit lightweight from the OEM, so hoping for a little bit faster revs. And then I'm running the Stage 2 clutch. This is actually going to be good for just like heavy-duty street use, anything in between. It's not complete overkill for an NA car. Yes, granted, you could run a Stage 3, Stage 4 clutch if you wanted to, if you're running high boost or something like that. It would take away from just the fact that, you know, you'd want to be able to daily this. And I think that's something that I also want to prioritize with this build as well. Something that, you know, is reliable, that you could daily drive, and it's not going to be a complete burden on you. So let's go take a look at the transmission real quick. So this is the transmission I'm going to be running. It's a K20Z3 transmission, which is a 6-speed out of a 2006 Honda Civic Si. When I got it from the junkyard. It was completely covered in soot, very dirty. The throwout bearing was very old and things of that sort. So I've already gone through here and refreshed a lot of this stuff. I just have it in a bag just to cover it so that it doesn't get attacked by the elements as it's sitting here in the shop. But this is ready to go. And I also am going to be upgrading the clutch master cylinder with the hybrid racing kit. I believe it comes from an S2000, so it's a little bit better of a clutch master cylinder for this one, so it should give lots of good engagement. And I also just got the K series half shaft, and as well as the insane axles that I'm also going to be running on this. And next to this, I have the K-swap header. So this is a 4-2-1 header, so 4-2-1 header that I'm actually going to be running on this K-swap here. So this will be pretty beneficial, and I'm actually planning on running a full 3-inch exhaust on this. I have it at my house, and I just haven't brought it over to the shop yet because it's a big piece of piping. And on the back of it, there's a vibrant muffler that will also be there. And then I also am going to be using for mounts, I'm going to be using the Hasport K-swap mounts that are going to be applicable with the EG subframe. So there will be a subframe conversion that we're going to do on this. This is the EG subframe that I recently just got from the junkyard that, again, was really disgusting, but we kind of did a little bit of a refresh on it. So there's some content on that if you want to go check that out. But this will be really beneficial for us to get the proper axle angles. That's probably one of the biggest reasons why you would want to swap out your subframe when you're doing a K-Series in a 96 to 2000 Honda Civic. And I think this will be worth it in the end. It's kind of a headache now, and I actually still need to get the EG steering rack, but I do have all the hardware and all the bolts to make that go on. And then this is where you will also run your outer tie rods, as well as your sway bar and all that fun stuff. So this is a good foundational thing that we'll have when it comes to adding more of the modifications. What I've been focusing on this week is actually the Type S oil pump. Now, this is a very popular swap that you want to do on a K24 because it really gets rid of a lot of the rotational mass that happens when you're running the OEM oil pump. Now, in terms of the next steps for this build, what I've been really focusing on is the Type S oil pump. Now, this is pulled from a Acura RSX Type S. A very popular swap for the K-Series because it unlocks a lot of revving potential. So what I mean by that is that the K24 oil pump is limited in how high it can rev just due to the fact that it has so much more rotational mass really coming down to the design. Whereas you can see with this one, it's very simplified in how it works, but it can get the revs up, which really helps out a lot in terms of performance. But to make it work, I still need to cut and grind this down, which I haven't done yet, but I have installed everything underneath. So I do have the windage tray, and I've also plugged up the port that you need to plug up in terms of underneath over there. And then to complement this with the Type S oil pump, I'm actually gonna be running this Moroso baffled oil pan. So you might be wondering why I would be running a aftermarket oil pan like this, and it actually really comes down to the track days. So this helps with a lot of high-speed cornering, and what this essentially has is like, it has these little trap doors in here, and it will also increase the oil capacity to 5.5 quarts. So meaning more oil in the system, more lubrication, less headache in case there's some sort of oil starvation, which is a pretty common thing that you see in other cars that are just driven very hard. Again, I think for me, it's just a reliability thing, especially if we want to be taking this out to the track. I would love to also do some road racing in this eventually, but we'll get to that point once we get there. And what's nice to it is it actually has these ports here where you can run an oil cooler. I was thinking about maybe running a Koyorad oil cooler. I think it's a little overkill for naturally aspirated, but I think it will become more beneficial if we were to ever go supercharged or turbocharged. So it's just nice to have that so we don't have to worry about it later. And the original oil pan anyways has a pretty big dent in it. It could have been from transport or whatever. It doesn't leak or anything, but I just thought that this would be very beneficial. And I mean, just look at this thing. It looks amazing. So this will be something that is very nice to complement this. And again, to go back to the Type S oil pump, I actually have the oil pump chain here, and then I have the guide as well as the tensioner. And this is all stuff that you're gonna have to swap out. It's really just beneficial and part of the course when you're doing this conversion. So while keeping on the subject with chains, this is something that I feel like gets overlooked quite a bit, but it's something that is actually really beneficial, especially if you're going to be doing stuff, related to the oil pump. And then you see that we have the cams over here. But before we go into the cams, we'll go into this real quick. So what this is actually the timing chain tensioner. This is the one from Hybrid Racing. And when you compare them side by side, this is just a much more robust piece and is more tolerable for higher revving applications. So for me, I'm really just trying to squeeze as many revs as I can get out of this engine. So I'm kind of hoping that this will help as part of just a preventative maintenance. And as you can see right now, it's in the lock position, and this is the way you unlock it. And this will apply tension to the chain itself so that when we're going through this, we can really understand what we need to do next. And this isn't really a modification, but this is just like a must-have if you're going to be doing anything K-Series related. And this is going to be the Honda Bond high-temp silicone liquid gasket. So what's interesting about, especially with the K-Series, is that a lot of these actually don't run like an oil pan gasket, for example. So you're just gonna use Honda Bond all around the mating surface here. And it's gonna be the same story on the timing cover on this side, which I'm also planning to do some reseals. So I'm gonna be changing out the crank seal because it looks like it's been there forever. But essentially you just take your Honda Bond and you're just gonna go all the way around. You could probably use a third-party brand silicone sealant, but I think since, just to keep with the OEM stuff, it's probably best just to use the Honda Bond for now. So you might be wondering what this cone filter is, and it's actually for the Hybrid Racing cold air intake. And this will actually be a good segue just to let you guys know that if you're looking for anything from Hybrid Racing, you can join my team page for free and you can get a exclusive discount on all Hybrid Racing stuff. And they pretty much have K-swap everything. So that'll be a good place to look, and I'll make sure to link that down in the description. So this will be a cold air intake setup. I have the rest of the piping over here. You kind of get the gist of it. So be drawing as much cold air as possible. I mean, you see people sometimes, they even take out the headlight to maximize for how much cold air they can get in. But I think in this case, this will be more than enough to get the job done. And what I have next to it is I actually have the K-swap shifter from Hybrid Racing. This is going to be, again, something that is very easy plug-and-play solution. You don't have to hack up the RSX Type S shifter box. Even though that might be a more cost-effective solution, I've just always been a fan. Ever since I put the D-Series Hybrid Racing shifter in the Civic, which is what it currently has now, this has been a staple of mine and something that I'm actually very excited to run. And then to go more into the preventative maintenance, I guess I don't know if this is really considered a mod, but this is something that we'll be running in this. I just got a fresh set of Mishimoto K-series ignition coils because the ones in them are absolutely baked. You can see that they've been there probably since new. A lot of burnt marks here on the tip. It was really hard to take them out. So this is just something that I guess is not technically a mod, but something that I'm actually pretty stoked on running. And then one of the biggest ones that we're gonna be doing here is actually the Drag Cartel drop-in cams. So what's nice about drop-in cams, and maybe what I can do here is I can pop open the valve cover just to show you guys real quick. This will come off. You can leave alone all the valve springs and retainers, and all it's gonna do is you're just gonna be replacing the camshafts. So all you have to do is take off the cam caps here. You know, you wanna make sure you go middle out, and then we'll have this taken off as well on the backside for the exhaust and the intake cams. And then I actually have these cam locks here just to make sure that it stays top dead center. That's just something that is beneficial, especially when you're going through this stuff, so you can make sure that the markings are exactly where they need to be. So also with this, I'm gonna be upgrading the VTC gear. I have a modified 45-degree VTC gear that I got from Drag Cartel. Again, something that I think is gonna really complement the drop-in cams, and something that I've just been putting off because I've had to really focus on the oil pump stuff. But I think this will be a pretty fun one when it comes to showing you guys the installation with that. It should be pretty easy. I just have to be kind of careful to not mess anything up when it comes to the valve train. I don't know if maybe I'll just take the cam caps off and I'll put these separately, but I will have to zip these two bolts off, and then the ones on the backside as well. Something to consider there. And then after all of that, I'm actually gonna be focusing on the fuel system. So the fuel system, I'm gonna be running this hybrid racing high performance fuel pump. Again, what's awesome about this is, especially for these older Hondas, hybrid racing really focuses on making sure that this stuff is plug and play. So this is an easy one. You just gotta take it out from the back seats, swap everything out, and you should be good to rock there. And this will complement everything that we're doing in terms of fuel management, and it will go back into the tune that we were gonna be doing with this anyways. So what I'm gonna be running for a tune is I'm actually gonna be running a K-Pro V4. So this will be, you know, kind of the more old school stuff. I know that Haltech is kind of taken off when it comes to K-swap stuff, but it's pretty crazy how things move along, because I mean, now you're seeing people doing L-series swaps, which is like the 1.5 liter turbocharged engine that you can get in the newer Civic SIs. So it's almost weird to see that, like, you know, the B series is considered vintage, and now the K series is almost gonna be at a place of becoming somewhat obsolete. But for right now, this is a very, very popular engine application for a reason. They're very simple, makes a lot of sense, and it's just a very different experience from like working on the BMW, for example. It's just a completely different ball game. I think I've covered everything that is going to be going into this build so far. So you guys will have to let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this so far. Did I miss anything? Is there anything else you guys want to see? But really, I just have this outrageously large crescent wrench that I will just plan to use to fix this whole thing. Which is just completely ridiculous. Anyways, I think I'll end the video here, so thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.